Welcome to Starting Over podcast training series. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at Mastermind. Mastermind is a unique power because it allows a character to purposely want to take damage, to shove it off to another character so that they can continue to operate on the click that they are on. Mastermind's major modus operandi is it is better for this other figure to take damage than for this figure to take damage. All right, so with that being said, let's get into it. Mastermind, when this character would be dealt damage, you may instead choose to have all the damage be dealt to a single adjacent friendly character with a point value less than this character. Any additional effects of the damage dealt, knockback, penetrating damage, etc., are applied to the character taking the damage. Damage dealt by this power is not an attack. Okay? Now, let's get some things clear. First off, Mastermind allows you to shift damage from one character to another character of less points. B, it allows you, when you shift that damage, you shift the damage type. Okay? So it could be normal damage or penetrating damage. Okay? But it has to be from the attack. It can't be, oh, I took a damage from pushing. No, it has to be from the attack. Okay? The next thing is any element such as, knockback continues on to the character that receives the mastermind damage. Okay, so if the opponent rolls doubles and you mastermind the damage off, then guess what? That character, unless they have something on their own dial that says otherwise, would be knockback. So take all that in, because a lot of people don't tell you all these things, and a lot of people don't read their power and abilities card. And so you have to realize that masterminding off damage can sometimes be great and sometimes can be detrimental. Now, let's take, for example, your opponent Psychic Blast your mastermind figure. You have two choices. You can either A, shuffle off the damage to a figure with combat reflexes, or B, you can shuffle off the damage to a character that has damage reduction. You have a choice. Who do you shuffle off the damage to? It would probably be best just to shuffle it off to the character with close combat reflexes. Why is that? Because shuffling off to the character with damage reduction completely negates the purpose of damage reduction. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So now, why are we using Mastermind? And this is the important element that really a lot of people have to figure out. Okay, why am I using Mastermind? Am I using Mastermind just because I can, or am I using Mastermind because it's beneficial to my team? Why am I using Mastermind? Okay, most of the time you have to say, I am using Mastermind because I have access to the following. Either A, ridiculously strong damage reduction, okay, or B, I have access to a ton of minions who can just absorb, tons of damage because I can regenerate them. Okay, so let's look at minion option 1. They have ridiculous damage reduction. My favorite character to use for Mastermind is from the Hulk set, and is Bruce Banner when he changes into the AE. I call him Aussie Hulk. Pretty much is Outback Hulk. Okay. Once he changes into Outback Hulk, it's pretty much, you can mastermind whatever you want to him because doubles do not transfer over to the damage dealt. He just absorbs infinite amount of damage. You don't need any other damage reducing pawn. But you probably want one, just in case, knockback would occur. Okay? So, the Aussie Hulk is the example of, hey, no matter what, unless that attack roll is doubles, which it wouldn't matter, okay, because the only effects that you would get from a character would be the knockback, not the doubles effect. He could just keep taking damage. Okay, so if it's Psychic Blast, it doesn't matter. The only thing, even if it's Pulse Wave, now you can't shuffle off damage because of Pulse Wave, but even with Pulse Wave, he would ignore Pulse Wave. So we have a interesting dynamic there. Okay. Now we also have an example of like Hydra soldiers. I think it's a Hydra officer. It's the basic Hydra agent that you can get from the Captain America set, which says if X figures are on the field, they can repopulate once they're KO'd. Those type of figures are great. Same thing with Leader and I think it's like Humanoids or something like that. He can regrow them. Being able to continuously bring fodder back can be just as good as having a character that can just absorb and absorb and absorb damage. All right. So you need to decide which one benefits your team more. Having a cheap figure with imperv, whatever a cheap figure means to you, matters only so much because, yeah, if that character gets imperv, they take no damage. But at the other end, if you're dealing with Psychic Blast, then guess what? Your pawn is sort of worthless. When you are playing Mastermind, you are playing a game in which you are saying there is only one hero of this story, and that's the guy with Mastermind. Everybody else is a chump. You can play it like that. Or you can say, all these other characters matter. This support figure with Mastermind, he's going to stay alive. Now, you might say, like, well, I've seen that work. I've not seen that work. Bear with me. Imagine for a moment you have this gigantic, super, uber tankish figure. And now it has Mastermind. How much more deadly does that figure become? You might say, well, I'll focus on killing the Mastermind fodder. While it annihilates your force, while that super uber tank annihilates your force, you're just going to like, I'm going to go after Mastermind fodder. Well, okay. Then you have the same issue of, okay, well, I go after the main tank. Well, it just shoves it off to the Mastermind fodder. Either way it goes, if you're not prepared, Mastermind can be very detrimental if you're not aware. At the other end, for a support figure, let's look at Calculator, for example. Calculator just pretty much can sit there, give Super Perplex and Outwit and do whatever else he wants, copy team abilities, and not really be touched. But if you do get back to him, he can have all sorts of Mastermind fodder back there, just making it incredibly difficult for him to be killed. So that's something to keep in mind. So what are we going to pair Mastermind up with? Classically, Mastermind has been paired with Ranged Combat Expert, Poison, Psychic Blast. And I would say all of those are great. They are really great. The best thing I would say is pair Mastermind up with a Defend figure so that you have some added security for your minions. And then also you want to pair the Mastermind figure. Make sure on that dial many times is Outwit. Outwit and Mastermind is ridiculously hard to deal with because now your opponent has to make a hard choice. Either A, outwit your Mastermind, or B, outwit your outwit. And if they're not on the ball, you're going to outwit their outwit, and you're going to be at a really good position. So think about all those things. Now, what I want you to do is just play one game with Mastermind, and I want you to pick a figure, and I want you to pick two types of fodder. One, just cheap fodder. Doesn't matter if they have damage reduction or not, just cheap fodder. The second is damage reduction fodder, and I want you to play a game, and we're going to set it for 500 points, and just play a game, and then force yourself to say, okay, I'm shoving the damage off to this character. And then just to make it fun, no outwit on either team or pulse wave. Okay? So just do that and then just see what happens with Mastermind. All right, and thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.